For our first conic section, we have here a circle, which is mean is the set of all points in a plane that is equidistant to a specific point called center. Going to talk about circle, it has its part where it called center and radius, which have point A and point B. Computing a circle, we need to identify its general and standard equation. Its general equation is ax squared plus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e is equal to 0. And its standard equation is quantity x minus h quantity squared plus quantity y minus k quantity squared is equal to r squared. For our first example, we have here center and radius. We need to solve for its general and standard equation using those properties. And for us to perform this, we need to use its given equation. I'm going to rewrite our given for us to understand it easily. Again, we have here center, which is 2 and 3, radius is 4, and h for x coordinate, which is 2, and k for y coordinate, which is 3. So now, let's start solving for its standard equation, which is quantity x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals radius or r squared. Now, let's proceed to substituting the value of h, k, and r. Now, we have quantity x minus 2 quantity squared plus quantity y minus 3 quantity squared equals 4 squared. For us to solve for the proper standard equation, now let's perform the unnecessary operations. Quantity x minus squared quantity squared plus quantity y minus 3 quantity squared equal to 16. 4 squared is equal to 16. Now we have the standard equation. Now let's proceed to its general equation. To get its general equation, we need to expand the terms. Now we're going to have quantity x squared. X squared is from x, multiply it by the squared, copy the sign, which we're going to have 4x. 4x came from x times 2 times 2. Now we have 4x. To get that plus 4, we need to divide 4x by 2 and divide it by itself. Now we got that 4. Plus quantity y squared. Y squared came from y times its squared. Copy the sign. Now we have this 6y. Y, it came from y times 3, which is 3y, times squared, which is 6y. To get that number 9, we need to divide by 2 and multiply it by self. Now we got that 9. Quantity is equal to 16. So now the next one, we need to move everything on the left hand side. Now we have x squared plus y squared minus 4x plus 6y minus 3 is equal to 0. Now, let's proceed to our second example. In this problem, we need to find its center and its radius. So, our given here is x squared plus y squared minus 6x equals to 7. Once you've seen this kind of equation, you need to group them by its same variable. Now, we're going to have this quantity x squared minus 6x quantity plus y squared is equal to 7. 7 will remain because it will act as our radius. So after that, you can see which one is needed to complete the square. So now we will have this expression. Quantity x squared minus 6x, we came 6x from x squared multiply by 6x. And we have this number 9 by dividing 6x by 2 and multiplying by itself, which is 9, plus y squared is equal to 7 plus 9. Every number that added from the right hand side will be added into the left hand side. So now we will have this expression. Quantity x minus 3 quantity squared plus y squared is equal to 16. Now, we can get our properties, or we can get our center and its radius. Center, which is h and k, are now will be 3 and 0. The x coordinate have negative 3, now going to be positive. The y has no value, so it will be 0. And for our radius, it will be 4 because it needed to be squared. 16 and its squared will be 4.
The next conic section is the parabola. A parabola is the set of all points in a plane that is equidistant to a specific line and a specific point. The properties of a parabola are the axis, the opening, the vertex, the focus, the directrix, and the latus rectum. We have x squared minus 16y plus 8x plus 48 is equals to 0 as our example to solve for the properties of a parabola. First, we need to identify if the parabola is vertical or horizontal. Since the x is squared, which means that our parabola is a vertical one. So, the formula of a vertical parabola is x minus h squared is equals to 4p y minus k. To solve for the properties of a parabola, first, we need to solve for the standard equation. Since the squared is in the x, which means that we all need to group them in the left-hand side, and we need to go through the process of completing the square. So, x squared plus 8x plus 16 is equals to 16y minus 48, and since we added the 16 in the left hand side, we also need to add it in the right hand side. So now the right hand side is 16y minus 48 plus 16. Now we need to factor the x squared plus 8x. So x plus 4 squared is equals to 16y minus 32. Now, we need to factor the y. So, x plus 4 squared is equals to 16y minus 2. After we solve for the standard equation, we now need to solve for the properties of a parabola. The first one is the axis. The axis is vertical since this is a vertical parabola. The next one is the opening. The opening of a vertical parabola can only be upward or downward. And since the 8x is positive, which means that our opening is upward. And if 8x is negative, the opening will be downward. To get the value of our vertex, first, we need to change the sign of positive 4 and negative 2. So, the values of our vertex will be negative 4 and positive 2. So for our focus, the value of the x will always be the same as the value of x in the vertex. Since this is a vertical parabola, only the value of y will change. So, to get the value of y, first we need to solve for the 4p. And since 16 is also our 4p, we need to divide it by 4. So, 16 divided by 4, then we will get the value of p, which is p is equals to 4. So, to get the value of y, we need to add 4 into 2 to get 6. So, for our y, which is the value of our directrix, we need to subtract 4 into 2. So, 2 minus 4 is equals to negative 2, and that will be our value for the directrix. For the latus rectum is the absolute value of 4p, which is 16. So, another example to compute for the properties of a parabola is y squared minus 12x minus 12y is equals to 0. And since our squared here is in the y, which means that this is a horizontal parabola. So, for the formula of the horizontal parabola, it is y minus k squared is equals to 4p x minus h. To solve for the properties of this horizontal parabola, we first need to solve for the standard equation. So, to go through the process of completing the square, we have y squared minus 12y plus 36 is equals to 12x plus 36. Since we added 36 in the left-hand side, we also need to add it in the right-hand side. Now, we need to factor y and factor x. So, y minus 6 squared is equals to 12x plus 3. After we solve for the standard equation, we now need to solve for the properties of this parabola. So, the axis is horizontal because this is a horizontal parabola. For the opening of a horizontal parabola can only be right or left. So, the opening of this horizontal parabola is in the right. So, to get the values of our vertex, first, we need to change the sign of negative 6 and positive 3. After that, our values will be negative 3 and positive 6. For our focus, since this is a horizontal parabola, the value of x will change and the value of y will not change. So first, to get the value of x, we need to solve for the 4p. Since 12 is our 4p, we need to divide it by 4 to get our value of 3. So p is equals to 3. So negative 3 plus 3 will be equal to 0 and that will be the value of our x. So since the value of y will not change, the value will be 6. For our x, which is the value of our directrix, we need to subtract 3 into negative 3. So negative 3 minus 3 will be equal to negative 6. For our latus rectum, since it is the absolute value of 4p, which is 12, the value of our latus rectum will also be 12.
An ellipse is a closed curve consisting of points whose distances from each of two fixed points, foci, all add up to the same value. This is what it looks like in a graph. It can be horizontal or vertical. It has center and two axes, the major and the minor axis. The major axis is the longest diameter of an ellipse. The 2 points that lies along it are called the foci, and the endpoint of it is called the vertex. On the other hand, the minor axis is the shortest diameter of an ellipse. The endpoint of it is called the co-vertices. Moving on to its formulas, the standard equation of an ellipse is x minus h quantity squared over a squared plus y minus k quantity squared over b squared equals 1. The general equation is ax squared plus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e equals 0. For the list of properties, I have a table on the side of the screen. Let's have an example. The given is center at 3, negative 5, vertex 7, negative 5, and co-vertex at 3, negative 8. The first step that we are going to do is to determine the axis. It's either horizontal or vertical. Now, we can see that the center and the vertex has the same y. That means this is a horizontal ellipse. As I mentioned before, the equation of an ellipse is x minus h quantity squared over a squared plus y minus k quantity squared over b squared is equals to 1. The next thing that we are going to do is to find the value of h and k. The value of h and k can be found at the center. That means our h is 3 and our k is equals to negative 5. Next, we are going to find the value of a and b. To find the value of b, we can use the vertex. H plus or minus a is equals to 7. To have the value of a, we are going to move the h to the other side. The value of h is 3, so it will be negative 3. And 7 minus 3 is equals to 4. That means our a is equal to 4. Now, to find the letter b, we are going to use the co-vertex. K plus or minus b is equals to negative 8. We are going to move the k to the other side. The value of k is negative 5. So, it will be negative 8 plus 5 equals b. Negative 8 plus 5 is equals to 3. Now that we have all the values needed, we can now substitute it to the equation. X minus the value of h is 3 over a, the value of a is 4. 4 squared is equals to 16 plus y minus k, the value of k is negative 5. So, this will be positive 5 squared over b squared. The value of b is 3. 3 squared is equals to 9. And do not forget to put equals 1. And that is all. This is our standard equation for this given. Now that we have the standard equation, we can now solve for the general equation. The general formula once again is a x squared plus b y squared plus cx plus dy plus e equals to 0. The first step that we're going to do is to find the LCD of 16 and 9. The LCD is 144. Now we are going to multiply the equation to 144. The answer will be 9 quantity x minus 3 squared plus 16 quantity of y plus 5 squared is equals to 144. The next step that we are going to do is to expound the binomials. So that will be x squared minus 6x plus 9 plus 16 y minus squared plus 10y plus 25 equals 144. The next step is to distribute the 9 and the 16. And that will be 9x squared minus 9 times 6 is 54x. 9 times 9 is equals to 81. That's 81 plus 16y squared. 160 times 10 is 160. So 160y plus 25 plus 16. 25 and 16 is equals to 400. And that will be equals to 100. and 44. The last step that we are going to do is to arrange the equation to the general formula. That will be 9x squared plus 16y squared minus 54x plus 160y. Then we are going to add the 481. 400 plus 81 is 481. And we're going to move the 144 inside the equation, and that will be to make it 0, and that will be negative 144. So 481 minus 144 is equals to 337 equals 0. And that is the general equation. 9x squared plus 16y squared plus 54x plus 160y plus 337 equals 0. For the next example, we are going to find the properties of an ellipse with general equation. To do that, we are going to transform this general equation into a standard equation. To do that, we are going to move together all terms with the same variables. 9x squared together with negative 54x and leave a blank plus 16y squared plus 160y and leave a blank. Then the constant term will be moved to the right side. It will be negative 337. The next thing that we are going to do is to factor out the 9 and 16. To do that, we are going to have 9x squared minus 54 divided by 9 is 6. And to fill the blank here, we are going to divide the middle term into 2 and then square. And that will be 9 plus 16y squared. 160 divided by 16 is 10. Again, to fill the blank here, we are going to divide the middle term and square. That will be 25 equals negative 337. Since we add 9 and 25 here, we are supposed to add that to the other side too. But since we factored it already, we are going to add positive 81 instead. And 25 times 16 is 400. Okay, next we are going to factor this. That will be 9x minus 3 squared plus 16 y plus 5 squared equals the sum of negative 337 plus 81 plus 400 is 144. Next, we know that to solve for the standard equation, we need to divide this into 144. That will be 144 over 144 and 144. This will be 1 equals to 1. 144 divided by 16 is equals to 9. So that will be over 9 and y plus 5 squared. And 144 divided by 9 is 16. So that will be over 16 and that is the standard equation. Now that we have the standard equation, we can now proceed to finding the properties. We know that the center is h and k, and the h and k here is 3 and 5. That means our center is 3 and negative 5. Next, the value of a and b is square root of 16 and square root of 9. Then that means a is equals to 4 and b is equals to 3. Now we can have the vertex. The first vertex will be h minus a and k. That means our h is 3 and our a is 4. 3 minus 4 is equals to negative 1, and the value of our k is negative 5. That means this is our first vertex. For the second vertex, we have h plus a and k. Our h is 3, so plus 4, that will be 7 and negative 5. And this is our second vertex. And now we can have the value of co-vertices. First co-vertex is h and then k minus b is equals to, our h is 3, so 3, and k minus b, that means negative 5 minus 3 is equals to negative 8. That is our first vertex. Next is our second co-vertex. It will be h, k plus b. Our k again, negative 5, and our b is 3. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. That will be 3 and negative 2. And that our major axis, the length of our major axis, let's put NJ for major axis, it is 2a. That means 2 times 4 is equals to 8. And then our minor axis, let's put MN for minor axis. It is 2b. That means 3 times 2 is 6. This is our major axis and our minor axis. Now, to find the foci, the first foci, we have here h minus c k, that. We need to find the c first. To find the c, we have the equation c equals a squared minus b squared square root of a squared minus b squared. Okay, a squared is 16 and 9. 16 and 9 is equals to 7. So that means our c is equals to square root 7. This is our c. And then, now that we have the c, we can now have the foci 1. That will be, since we cannot subtract the 3 and 7, we're just gonna write it. So it will be 3 minus square root of 7 and the k, which is negative 5. And then the second foci will be h plus c minus and k equals 3 plus square root of 7 and negative 5. And that is all. Thank you. Once again, for the properties of this ellipse, the first vertex is negative 1, negative 5. The second vertex is 7 and negative 5. And the first co-vertex is 3 and negative 8. The next co-vertex is 3 and negative 2. The major axis value is 8 and the value of minor axis is 6. And focus 1 is 3 minus square root of 7 and comma 5. And then the second focus is 3 plus 7 plus square root of 7 comma negative 5. That's all.
Today we're going to discuss about one example of conic section, which is hyperbola. What is hyperbola? Hyperbola is a set of all points in a plane whose difference of the distance from two fixed points, foci, are constant. Moving on, the properties of hyperbola has a lot of similarities to the properties of ellipse. Just like ellipse, you have the center, the foci, the vertex, and co-vertices. For transverse axis and conjugate axis, they are equivalent to the minor and major axis of ellipse. Transverse axis contains the foci, the vertex, and the center. The conjugate axis, on the other hand, have the co-vertex and the center. Moving on, the general equation of hyperbola with horizontal axis is x minus h quantity squared over a squared minus y minus k quantity squared over b squared is equals to 1. For the general equation of vertical axis, we have y minus k quantity squared over b squared minus x minus h quantity squared over a squared is equal to 1. The standard equation of hyperbola is ax squared minus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e is equal to 0. Note that the a and b should have different sign and do not equate to 0. This table guides us to identify the value of h, k, a, and b that is needed for our general equation. Now we're gonna solve for the standard equation of hyperbola. Our given is center, located at point 0, 3, transverse axis length of 12, conjugate axis length of 8, and horizontal axis. Since the axis of this given is horizontal,
we're gonna use x minus h quantity squared over a squared minus y minus k quantity squared over b squared is equal to 1. Now we have to find the value of h, k, a, and b. And we were gonna use this table that I've shown you earlier as the guide to find the value of these four. Now to find the value of h and k, as you can see in the table, the center is equivalent to h and k. Since our center is 0, and 3, our h is equal to 0 and k is equal to 3. To find the value of a, we will gonna use transverse axis. Since our transverse axis is given, which is 12, 2a is equals to 12, then divide both sides by 2, cancel out 2, and divide 12 divided by 2, and we will have a is equals to 6. To find the value of b, we will gonna use conjugate axis. Since our conjugate axis is given, 2b is equals to 8, divide both sides by 2, cancel out 2, b is equals to 8 divided by 2, which is b is equals to 4. Now that we have the value of h, k, a, and b, we will gonna substitute it to the general equation. X minus 0 quantity squared over 6 squared minus y minus 3 quantity squared over 4 squared is equal to 1. Then we will perform necessary operations. Since our h is 0, we will have x squared over 6 squared is equal to 36 minus y minus 3 quantity squared over 4 squared is equal to 16 equals to 1. Now we have to find the LCD of both 36 and 16 and multiply it by both sides to cancel out the denominator. And the LCD of 36 and 16 is 144. Multiply 144 both sides, and we will have 144 divided by 36 is equals to 4, quantity x squared minus 144 divided by 16 is equals to 9, quantity y minus 3, quantity squared is equals to 144. Now we will have to multiply 4 and x squared, expand the trinomial, and transpose 144. And we will have 4x squared minus 9 quantity y squared minus 6y plus 9 minus 144 is equals to 0. Now we will have to distribute our constant to our trinomial, and we will have 4x squared minus 9y squared. Negative 9 times 6, negative 6 is equals to positive 54y. Negative 9 times 9 is equal to negative 81 minus 144 is equals to 0. And then combine like terms, and the final answer will be 4x squared minus 9y squared plus 54y minus 225 is equal to 0. Thank you for watching.